I'm Mike Goffney. In 20 years inside of organizations and working on this, and I've realized a couple things. That one, culture is something you have to cultivate. Two, leaders typically make terrible mistakes on it. Three, where's the starting point when you want to create a culture that truly produces employee engagement? First big point, culture is just a word for engagement. Gallup does a survey every year called State of the Global Workplace, and they'll tell you that somewhere in the 70s, probably between 70 and 75% of an employee's engagement is a direct connection to who it is they work for. They actually have a book out called It's the Manager. And that book, It's the Manager, is titled the fact that they realize that the manager is the single greatest impact on the overall employee engagement of those around them. So if you're a leader out there and you're thinking about engaging your employees, just so you know, it comes back to you. And specifically, culture is this idea of this place and the unspoken rules of how we all relate to each other. And so it, again, ties back to the manager. But at the end of the day, I actually say culture is simply the description, and a good culture is what people want, which is engagement. And so when you talk about culture, what you're trying to say is, wow, I want an emotionally engaged workforce. I want them to feel like they love what they do. They love who they do it with. They want to do it more. And so most leaders will actually confuse this, though. Instead of realizing that they own whether or not their people love what they do, love who they do it with, and want to do it more, they think that it's something that just kind of happens. It can be about whether or not it's work from home or not, or whether or not you sit together or not, or how relational the work is or not. In fact, culture so often ties into relationship. The problem is we think it's all about having people feel things, like feel loved and accepted and motivated, whether or not we should actually feel like we understand values. And so we've got these ambitious motivational speech posters on the wall. For a long time, the post.com world, there was man, we had to have the best talent. And so we're going to have a chef on site, or we're going to do your laundry for you, or we're going to have ping pong tables and all these other things. People thought that was culture. Those are all different things that occur that it might actually make people feel good. They may like you. You might even make their job easier. But that's actually not going to create culture that you really want, which is an engaged culture. If you want a really great culture, the question is, what actually builds engagement and what kills it? Culture isn't just about studying how people feel and those other things. Simple. You want to create a great culture? What creates employee engagement and what doesn't? We make a mistake when it comes to understanding what builds culture and what kills culture. Building culture is often thought of as having mission statements, words on the wall. In the old days, it was all about having basically amenities for the staff, flexible work hours, being able to work remote, travel the world, unlimited PTO. These are all things that people put in as bennies, as we'd say, or benefits, thinking that would be culture. At the end of the day, we know now, like I just said, some things create engagement and some things don't. First of all, the big one is team leaders understand that they're responsible for building or killing culture. So the mistake you make is thinking that it's someone else's job. If you're a team leader or a CEO or a founder, the culture reflects you. The first thing I understand is that it's not some magical thing that comes out of your talent or your people department. People make the mistake of realizing that the manager owns the culture because the manager owns employee engagement. The second mistake people make is that when it comes to culture and engagement, people think it's about people getting along, liking each other, and being happy. And in fact, the 3 questions from Gallup, I love what I do, I love who I do it with, I want to do it more. That can feel like, gosh, it's about people getting along. The crazy thing is that often leads people to be worried about whether or not people are happy or whether or not people are all emotionally perky. And so they get afraid of the negative. They get afraid of negative conversations. They get afraid of negative talk and negative feedback. They are afraid of employees feeling bad. And so unfortunately, the fear of negative emotions creates something here. It creates a lack of accountability. And so people will be afraid of coming down too hard, of if I'm responsible for engagement, and engagement is the key to culture, people who think I'm being too mean, people who feel like they're struggling, oh gosh, I should not let them feel that way. So what do? They avoid the hard conversation. I would say one of the greatest challenges to creating engaged culture is cowardice. It's the lack of ability to really tell the honest truth about how you see an employee's performance. Gallup will tell you that every employee falls into one of three categories: engaged, not engaged, actively disengaged. The engaged employee comes early, stays late. They love what they do, love who they do it with, want to do it more. Okay. You say about 2% of this population will be engaged no matter what. 2% of you are just crazy. You love being emotionally engaged. Not engaged, it's totally situational. Some moments they love what they're doing, other times they don't. It's up and down. It's kind of a flip a coin. They may stay on, they may not. The engagement level is completely dependent on whatever's happening, but it's not a consistent resource you can tap into. The actively disengaged is the employee who is grumpy, complaining, stealing from you. They're mad that employees are engaged. They get in the way. They're intentionally obnoxious and obstructive. Engaged employees love what they do it with, want to do it more. Not engaged, they love it on the right day. Actively disengaged, they're actually fighting against you. Okay? That's the cult workforce. Here's the thing. So you have the engaged employee at the top, actively disengaged at the bottom. What's interesting is most people would think that for a team leader or a manager to create more engaged employees, they should just be more encouraging. If I could just encourage the not engaged employees enough, then they actually will become higher engaged employees. And I really need to just kind of ignore the actively disengaged, as most people do. Gallup actually found the opposite is true. They said the surest way to turn your engaged employees into not engaged employees were to not hold the disengaged employees accountable. Your engaged employees are going to figure out right away that their hard work doesn't matter because you tolerate poor work. In fact, I heard somebody brilliant say one time, culture is not what you say, it's what you actually allow. What do you put up with? What do you let people slide on? That's a key factor. The mistake that's confusing is, so we avoid accountability for fear of damaging culture. The reality is you can't have an engaged culture without accountability to the not engaged and the active disengaged employees. Because you can't say performance matters, but then let probably 70% of your employees be kind of indifferent to that standard. So then the last step is then how exactly do you create an engaged culture? You actually have to have a vision for what culture and clear performance looks like. You have to understand that you have to have a vision for strategy, but you also have to have a vision for the type of team you want to have. Do you want a group of people that are all just very similar, which you might need that? Great. So you align that, hey, we want to be working shorthand with each other. This is what high performance looks like. Here's where we're falling short, and we measure ourselves against it. Others of you will say, you know what? We want to be a team that has this natural tendency, but we have to make sure we include voices that aren't like us. So if you're influencing and executing themes, let's say in Clifton Strengths, and you're all about selling it and getting it done, but you don't have a lot of critical thinking, but moments require it, you're like, we actively say, hey, what would analytical people say right now? And you build in process. The bigger issue is you have to have a vision for employee engagement. Most leaders act like it's outside of their control. You need to, one, realize that in culture is just code for an engaged workforce. When it comes to engagement, things either build it or don't. The manager is the key. And that manager has to hold employees accountable. And then the last thing, you can't hold people accountable to a vision you don't state. What is the expectation? How are you leveraging? Do you have expectation that people use their strengths? Do you have expectation that people have healthy conflict? Do you have expectation that in meetings, people commit and then work to close the gap between their commitments and their actions? Do people's actions matter more than their words? Without these standards, without a vision for that, you can't do the second step, which is accountability. Without accountability, you can't create a high performance engaged culture. Where do you fall in here? Do you have a natural desire of understanding of employee engagement's key to culture? Great. But you're scared of the hard conversation, kind of feeling like a little bit of a coward. That's your struggle. Or is it the last one? If you're like, look, I'm not scared, but I realize we started the company not thinking about this. And now we don't have a vision for our culture. We don't have a vision for how we should behave in team meetings. It could simply be as simple as team rules, how you meet. You've got to have a vision. And so accountability is kind of the headline. Accountability is not the enemy of an engaged culture. In fact, it's the bedrock, but you can't have accountability without a vision. What is your vision? What's the best engaged culture you've ever seen? If you have an example of that, you're like, man, here it is. How did you know though? How did you know it was a great culture? What does employee engagement look like in a world that we're running past all the little, again, the benefits and all the little, the bonuses of the free lunches and the dry cleaning service and the ping pong tables? What have you found has created truly engaged cultures where you are? Just so you know, cultures are just the other words for groups of people that are emotionally engaged. Engagement is either built or destroyed based on accountability. But accountability to what? Requires you have a vision for how employees work together in order to create engagement with each other. Love to hear your thoughts. If this is engaging for you, like, subscribe, share. Just putting stuff out there, trying to help you along after my 20 years. Hope you're having a really great week. See you next time.